Alright, today we are going to talk about graphs. Not just graphs, but figures, pictures, tables, anything like this. It's something that we need to make sure that are done in a way that they convey the information that we want and that they look professional. That's always going to be a big thing. Now, they will say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that is completely true. But if your 1,000 words are garbled or gibberish, people aren't going to know what you're trying to convey. So take this graph that I have here right now. So any graph, any figure, any image, you should be able to look at it and figure out what's going on. Now typically this would be inserted into a document and it would have a figure title that would explain some stuff too, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So as I look at this graph though, you'll notice something about it that's going to be really off. And the fact is, you have absolutely no idea what this is, because it's just a bunch of data points and a bunch of numbers. This is critically important that on all of our graphs, we have axis titles, units, and everything's put together neatly. So in this case, the biggest problem is I have absolutely no idea what these numbers mean, because they are pretty meaningless. And you'll also notice that I've got a lot of dead space here too. So this goes into the negatives, and there's actually no negative data. This little dotted line here is something called a trend line, which is just a basic curve fit. Whatever class that you are taking where we're doing this stuff, I'm sure that I will be showing you what trend lines and curve fits are. But so right now we're just worried about, in fact, let's get rid of that there. Oh, and when we get rid of that, so see what happens is the negative goes away. And so this is a little bit better, and we still have some extra space here. But let's go back, and I'm going to show you how to hard fix that. But the very first thing that we need to do is we need axis titles. We have to know what these axes represent, because this right here is, completely and utterly worthless. And so what we can do is, we've got a couple different ways that we can do this. So if I click on this, I can go to Chart Tools, I can go up here into Design and Quick Layouts. If I hit any of these, it'll slap some stuff in. I can go and add individual chart elements, axis titles, my horizontal and my vertical, or I can also click on the little plus that appears here, and I can say axis titles. And I can even go so far as to pick which ones that I want there. Okay, so in this context, I know that the x-axis, this would be cuts made. We just want to highlight that and cuts made. So this is a graph actually that's in context of how many cuts you make versus what your earnings are in golf. So, and this will just be earnings. Okay, so this is better. Now we at least know what our titles are, so we know what we're measuring. So we do have another problem though, is we don't know what we're measuring, what units we are. Now cuts made, this is something that it's not really going to have a unit to it. There's not going to be, this isn't going to be, like in feet or meters or anything like that. I mean, if we really want to, we could just say, and even this is unnecessary because cuts made, there is no unit for it. So we'll leave that alone. So over here though, we have earnings. This would have a unit because it would have some kind of monetary value to it. And so what we could do is we could come over here and go, okay, well, earnings, and we could say that we could put the little parentheses, we can put the parentheses after it and go, okay, well, that's in dollars. And so that would take care of it. Now, one thing, especially in the business world, you have to worry about is the United States isn't the only people that use the dollar. The Australians do also. There's some other countries. So you have different earnings. You can have, yen, euros, US dollars, Australian dollars, Polish zloty, whatever it's going to be. So if you want to be really correct, you could go US dollars. And so now that is completely unit full. Unit full, I guess that's a really word. But now you have your units in there. Now, the other way you could do it is we could just go and we can turn those numbers into dollar amounts. So we can right click on this, go to Format Axis, and so we can come over here and we can go to Number, because that's what it is the numbers. And we can say category would be currency. And you can see that it puts the dollar sign in. You can go to accounting, does the same kind of thing. So you can do all that stuff. You can play around with it. And so let's say we're going to leave this as US dollars here. One thing that we would want to do is, you notice you got a lot of numbers there. It's hard to read. So you want to make it easy for your your audience to be able to read it. So what you want to do here is just go to number. Now decimal places, you don't want decimal places here because it really kind of looks sloppy. There's no reason to have any decimals there. And you use that thousand separator, and you can see, once we click on that, so now we've got those thousands in there. We can go back to earnings, and we can put in our US and then dollar sign. Okay, so now we have units there. Both our axes are labeled. We've cleaned these numbers up so we don't have this weird decimal points in there. That's another thing too, is when you've got decimals in there, don't put like 8 and 10 decimal points in there. Nobody cares. NASA plots satellites using pi to 3.14. You want things to look neat because you want people to be able to digest that. And so the last thing is, let's get rid of this dead space here because there's no reason to have it go down to the negative. If you right click on this, go to Format Axis, and you can see that you've got your bounds, maximum, minimum. Since we're dealing with the y-axis, we can sit there and put our minimum to 0. And there we go. That gets rid of all of that. We can leave some, it goes right up to 10 mil. I guess we can leave that headroom in there. But we've got nothing above 25, so let's go over here and do the same thing, Format Axis, and so we'll make the maximum 25 instead of 30, because there we go. And so now it's not as cramped. There's no dead space out of there. Okay, and so the only thing that we're missing here is a title. Now, typically, I will tell people not to put the title in Excel because almost always this is going to get plugged into something else. So let's just go and we'll bring a Word document into play. And so I have a blank Word document. So what I would do, and you notice I've also got this on its own tab. And how do you get that? Is you just go, you right click on it wherever it is, and you go to, I can't see Move Chart here. So let's go over here to one of these. So you can click on this, and you can go Move Chart, and you can say New Sheet, and it plops it in. And it's great because it fills the whole thing up, makes it easy to cut and paste. So we're going to take this thing, I'm going to right click on it, copy. I'm going to open up my Word document. I'm going to paste this in as a picture. It's a little bit too big, so I'll just shrink it down. So we've got it kind of in the middle there. And then what I'm going to do is now I'm going to put the title in. And so it's very important to always have a title on your graph. It tells you what's going on. Like I said, we didn't put it into the Excel. We're putting it into the document. We put it into the presentation. And you always want to number it. So figure 1. You always want to number these, especially in documents, because you want to be able to refer back to the figures. You want to talk about them, so they need a name. So figure 1, and now we'll give it the title. Yearly earnings. I could spell versus cuts made in the PGA Tour, and let's just say it was the 2018 PGA Tour, and men's PGA Tour, because I believe that's where the data is from. And so there we go. So now I have my chart pasted in here. It's all nice and pretty. I know what the numbers here are. I know what the numbers here are. They all make sense. It's all clear. And by reading this title, I know what the name of the graph is, and I also know the figure number of the graph. This is what you want to do for every graph that you do. Doesn't matter if you just have one in your paper. You want to do all of these because instead of being garbled, this is an actual useful graph. And that's what we want to do for all of our visualizations, no matter what we do. Whether they are tables, graphs, figures, these are kind of the general rules that we want to use.